Hello, everybody. This is Derek Smith, and I want to welcome you to another Blue Table Talk. Today, I have another field professional with me. His name is Marc Lacrimosa, and Marc is a firearms instructor and a private investigator in Georgia. Marc, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience, please?
Okay, my name's Marc Lacrimosa. I live in the Winder, Georgia area, just outside of Atlanta, and I am a private investigator. I have been since 2017. I am an NRA basic firearms pistol instructor. I also am a process server. I do court running, which is a thing I invented on my own, calling it a term if you want to discuss it. And I keep a bail enforcement certification. I don't do that too much. I do back up other bail agents that register me. So that's one of my last things I do. I stay pretty busy with all of it.
And what was that thing you said you made up?
Court running.
And what is that?
A court running is a lot of PIs, I realize, do process serving. Well, I added it for court running because, especially when COVID hit, I became almost a private courier on my own. I would move documents for lawyers from courthouse to courthouse. I would go research documents for them. I would go file documents for them in Superior Court, Magistrate Court, Probate Court. I would retrieve documents. If attorney had a will that he wanted delivered to another city, but he didn't want to put it in the mail, I would take it down. I would deliver it to hand in that day, rush service that day if I can. So I call it court running.
So did you kind of, I really like that idea because it sounds like you reinvented yourself due to COVID.
Yes.
You started losing some of the private investigation where you were able to keep, I assume you were able to keep your revenue up because you reinvented yourself or came up with your own things you can do. I really like that idea.
And the girl that my partner, Miranda Panther, who helps me out, she a little background is I owned a knife and gun store, and we just shut it down actually because we're redoing it to more of like gun shows, and somebody bought out our location. So at the meantime, I helped her get her PI license, and what happened was when things were slowing down a little bit, we went to the court running thing and it paid off. And that's where we designed that name of we'll do document running. We'll do document research filings. And now, especially where I was at, when the sheriff's departments shut down and weren't serving stuff or doing much, we were just wide open. So yes, we did fill the gap.
Well, I love that idea. Matter of fact, I think some of our viewers might try to explore that and learn more. At the end, I'm going to ask for a way to reach out to you because you might have some questions based on that. Sure. I'm going to ask questions myself because I like that idea. And I try to work exclusively with lawyers. So I like that idea. So why don't you tell me, who do you work with? What's your main clientele? Who do you mainly focus on?
I'm actually independent. In Georgia, every state has its own way of licensing PIs. We have to just make sure somebody carries our license. So I have, my background is I was 12.5 years in the military in the Army. And then I became a deputy for about 14 years. And then after that, I retired in 17 because of some injuries I had. And I became a PI. So you're asking my connections, right?
But before we do that, let's explore that a little bit. So what did you do in the Army?
In the Army, I was a mechanic on tanks, old school, 86 to 92. And then I became a wheel mechanic, and then I went back in 99 to 07 and did some deployments overseas, Iraq, Kuwait, Cuba, and I became an MP in Cuba for my last hitch and had a little fun doing MP work.
I was going to ask you if you did some law enforcement. So you did have that journey where you eventually became an MP. You're like me, I was a flight operations guy, got into investigations in the Air Force. So we find our way into law enforcement, and the rest is history.
Exactly.
So you did your time in the Army, you did some MP work, got out and joined the Sheriff's Department, you said?
Yes. And I was in Athens, Clark County, Georgia. I became a jailer and then worked in a courthouse. And that's in between deployments. And then I got redeployed to the Middle East for 18 months. And I came back and worked a little more and then switched departments to my hometown.
Okay. And then how did you find your way to first of all, how did you find your way to PI work? And because you had a law enforcement background, were you able to go straight into your PI license, or did you have to work for somebody?
Well, I'll be honest. At the time when I was in law enforcement, I also had the knife shop, and we did a lot of trade shows on the weekends where I became friends with Earl Seegers, which you call him Chief Earl Seegers, and he owns the Law Enforcement Specialty Training Academy, which is on my shirt. And he would do his recruitings and sell his stuff at the shows, and he's out of Norcross, Georgia, and he has an academy. We just don't give somebody books when we train somebody to be a PI. We help them be a security guard, licensed or armed or unarmed. We get you in a classroom. We get you hands-on. Everything is done through, you have to write notes and everything. So I liked Earl's concept. So as we became friends over the years, I told him when I left law enforcement, I was going to have him get me the PI license, which when I did in 2017, I was dealing with a lot of injuries I had from the military. It was time to go. I just couldn't do it anymore. And I got the PI license, and you have to know a little bit. It's very hard for somebody with no training to jump right in, but I had the military, the law enforcement background, so it was a little easier for me. But that was one of the things I wanted to do. Now, the process serving and everything. I remember when I first got my private investigations license, I was like, I don't want to process serve.
Yes, me too.
Process serving has gotten huge.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, it's dangerous.
Yes, it is. I've had some people come on and talk about, matter of fact, down in Georgia, one guy interviewed talked about being attacked by folks when he's serving them and things like that.
I have numerous. We just had a call. We just had a altercation the other day. I mean, it happens. It's insane that somebody is so violent over getting a piece of paper.
Well, what they don't understand is that we're helping them by giving them that piece of paper, because they wouldn't know about a court case that's pending without us serving them this paper. So this gives them time to go back and find legal representation and prepare for a case, because we let them know that they're there. But they're so used to seeing it on TV that the guy knock on the door, you've been served, and they're supposed to fight. I give them a text message or Facebook. I'll check them out online. If I meet him in person, I'll explain to him, look, I'm just a messenger. That's all. And, it doesn't matter to me whether you throw this paper down, you throw it away, or you refuse my text message, because I'm going to tell you what, the next step in Georgia is they're going to publish you in the newspaper. Yeah, exactly. I'm saving you all that. Yeah, I'm helping you. So one of the things you mentioned is that you do the process serving and things like that down there. And you when you got out and became a private investigator, you had a law enforcement background. There's something interesting that you mentioned I want to talk about. You said that your academy does a little bit more than just give somebody a license. First, let me say, I have a private investigator career course, and people always ask me, why should I take your course? And I always say that you said this, you can go in and get a private investigation license. You can sit through a 1-week class and get your license, but you don't know how to investigate. Right. I recently went through one just to compare it to mine. And for a week, we sat there and they did a show. They showed me nice cameras and wall cameras, and a person came in and talked about polygraph. They talked about things for a week. It was a nice show. All the new people were ooh and ah. We never did report writing. We never did an interview of each other even. They didn't learn how to do anything, but they were fascinated by the show that was put on. It was a waste of $700. Luckily, I could write it off. So and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm bad about it. But that's my question to you. So go ahead. People see it on TV. Exactly. And they think they're just going to be a PI running around, and that's what's going to happen. They don't understand the trenches. Well, they think they don't realize it's a specialized skill you have to develop. Right. So that's what I want you to tell me about. So what's your view on these 1-week, 2-week classes versus what you all do and what a person really needs to know to be a private investigator? Talk about that a little bit. Well, our courses run, I'll be honest with you, $800 to $1,200, depending what you add license. We give an option to get you an armed or unarmed security license with it. Runs about $1,200 plus state fees. And what happens is we give you about 4 big manuals that are pretty thick. And if you're going to do the home study course, you take those manuals home, but you still have to do a few days with us in the classroom. But in these manuals, you're not just going to read this or read this online. You have to write notes. And we make you read and write notes. And we do that because if something ever happens, we can say he did take the course, he did read it. Well, here's all the notes. We don't make you write 4 notes on each chapter. If you're taking the whole 120-hour course that's required by the state of Georgia, you better timeline 120 hours worth of notes. And that's why we make you study at home. Now, if you go to the classroom, of course, you get the videos more
and we have that option. You can come in the classroom. You get the in-house speaking, the videos, the teachers, and some people can do that. Some have to do it at home part-time. So that's what I don't like is I'm not going to say who it is. It's out of California. You may have seen his ads. I get these ads every day on my Facebook to be a executive protection officer.
Yeah.
There's no way you're going to learn to be a executive protection officer by an online home study course on your computer.
Exactly.
And you might know who that person is.
Yes.
And I'm not going to say it. I'm sure he's making money. I'm happy for him. And that's just an example. You got to have some hands-on training, some academy training or something, especially if you have no law enforcement experience or even military.
Yep.
The other thing is, I get people call all the time. Like I said, they say, well, I found the course online for $3.99. Well, you get what you pay for. I'm not going to down somebody's course, but you really think about it. You get what you pay for.
Yep. My course is expensive. It's $9.97.
And that's not expensive. You're given good training.
And it's 35 lessons, and I cover everything. Everybody take is happy. But of course, the sticker shock at first. But I tell people, look, but I'm training you for a new career.
Yeah.
And if you go to college, it's going to cost a lot more than $1,000. You're becoming a private investigator, career, and you're going to know how to do an investigation.
Well, and just, you can explain to people they can make that back in one case.
That's it. Your first case. So I'm going to take you back because I skipped over something I asked you before, but your clientele. Tell us a little bit about your clientele, who you work with. Because we talked about it off camera. I want the folks to know.
All right. My clientele is, I work for about 20, 25 attorneys. Of course, being a deputy for so long in the area, I met a lot of attorneys. So what I did right away when I left, first of all, when I first quit and retired, I took a trip to Boston. I had to reset my mind. Then I came back, I got my license, and I hit the ground running. I printed 1,000 business cards, and I had my license number on it for the state of Georgia. And
it's got a new box in, by the way.
Yeah. And I took off on the ground, just talking to all the attorneys I knew. And to be honest, most of them were like, well, I use this person for process serving. I don't need a PI. We don't need a PI. And slowly it just started building. They started calling me. I went out and I didn't undercut any process servers. I just set my rates a little different than others. And that's where the cutthroat part comes in on the rates, but you pay for what you get.
Yes.
And it started building, and the more attorneys that called me for process serving or PI work started recalling me back. And then they would get calls from Atlanta or South Georgia. Like there's some areas in South Georgia, there's no PIs or nothing. And I get now calls. I'm going to St. Simon's Island for the 3rd time next week. That's a beautiful area in Georgia. And because there's no PIs down there, but the attorneys know, they tell the clients, I do good, solid work, and I'll drive down to 5 hours to do the work. So it is all in marketing, basically, and doing the job.
So is most of your work with the attorneys? I assume you take some cases for marital investigation, or are you very busy with your attorneys?
Some people will call me privately. Some will call me out of referrals. The attorneys will want me to write a contract with them through the client, or some will have the client speak directly to me, but advised by the attorney, like I'm in the loop, but we want you to deal with Mark. Or the attorneys want to be involved in it. It really depends on the whole scenario. I always ask too, if I don't know the person, who's your attorney? And I'll always, usually before they give me a payment, I'll always call the attorney and say, they want to hire me. What do you think? What are you looking for? And you do that for discovery purposes too, because you can't, if that attorney gets asked by the opposing party's attorney, is there a PI involved? They have to disclose it. So I take precautionary steps. I don't want somebody to call me up and give me $2,000 for no reason. It's not fair to somebody.
Absolutely. I had a guy just have me do something, and I told him, look, let me look into it a little bit before I do. I don't want to charge you for nothing. I try to stay ethical and professional. Like I don't want to just charge you. Now I did do a 1-hour retainer because I was looking first, but I didn't want to beat the guy up, and I try not to beat my clients up. And and I'm gonna say this about you as well. They find out that you're prior law enforcement. I think you get a little bit better. People trust you a little bit more than the typical guy on the street.
It helps out with the prior law enforcement and military. It does.
Yeah. I tell them I'm an ex-federal because they're trying to choose between PIs. I tell them I'm an ex-federal agent. And I served in the Air Force, Army, and Navy. And a lot of them usually have served in the military. And they tell me they were in the Army. I'm like, I was an Army CID, and I get the person, so they kind of trust us a little bit. Now,
well, one of the things that attorneys hire me for a lot of times, too, is to read those police reports. Because, and I'm not going to knock police officers. I was a police one. But honestly, they make mistakes like anybody else.
Yeah.
So your specialty skill can be to read these reports and find mistakes out.
So you're almost like an expert witness. You can go in and point out things.
Absolutely. And I get hired a lot to read DUI reports and look at DUI videos, body cams, and things. But a couple of attorneys I work for, I specialize in Georgia's 7 deadly sins. I work a lot of 7 deadly sin cases, which I don't know in your state if they have that. But over here, it would be, I do a lot of rapes, murders, homicides, and child molestation cases. I've done a lot of child molestation cases. And those are for defense attorneys.
Right.
Missing persons. I got a couple murders I'm on right now where they haven't been solved in a couple of years. So, I reach out to the police departments and say, I'm here to help you. The family's hired me now. They know you're overloaded. What can I look at for you?
So you stay pretty busy down there in Georgia. It sounds like you have a pretty successful firm going on.
Yeah, and I run independent, except for I got a partner, but she's not trained in the background I have, but she, I got her license so she can look up stuff she can use my programs to look stuff up if I'm on the road, or she can assist me backing up on stuff.
So I want to talk about that just for a second. 2 things you touched on. One was reports. I want to talk about that. So let's save that. But let's explore what you just said for a moment. Because of your, you have a lot of PIs out there that don't have a law enforcement background. Do you think you're more successful at those kind of cases, death investigations and all that, because you were in law enforcement and you did these type of things as a law enforcement officer? Right. Or did you really pick up a lot of skills as a PI doing these type of investigations?
I had to answer a client calling me to tell him leave me alone for a minute. It's okay. That's how the phone's been lighting up with some clients.
Business first.
Yeah. So, there's a couple other specialties I'm working on. I'm about to go to school to be a human and animal tracker in the woods. I'm taking a course in West Virginia to try to get the specialty on that through a whole school of tracking, which is known for teaching military and law enforcement. So when I was leaving law enforcement, I had the law enforcement experience and the military background. And I also did search and rescue ground to air, mainly as ground team with the Civil Air Patrol for about 10 years. And I quit that in 2012. And I was a captain, non-paid reserve with the Air Force on the side doing that. And I took all those skills and said, I've got to know something about being a PI, placing all that in. And that's, the only thing I didn't do in law enforcement was I was never worked in CID or investigations.
Okay.
But when I was a road patrol, I worked domestic violence, I worked juvenile crimes, and I worked in the courtroom the last 5 years. So I got to hear a lot and understand the laws and how it works. So the judicial system. So, I had to take all that and roll it into one thing, but it's still, every case is different every day, and every day is different. And you have to keep yourself updated too.
Well, let me ask you a question. That's interesting. So a lot of police officers and investigators, myself included, we think because we're police officers or investigators, we can easily be a PI. It's going to be a no-brainer. PIs don't know as much as we do. Come on. Right. So what was your transition and your thought about going from police, especially since you worked CID, and that's Criminal Investigation Division for folks who don't know, and then rolling it over to PI? Was it as you thought it was going to be?
Well, the first step is you're scared to make that transition of starting a new career, because you're where I was making $42,000 a year, and I was working 5 days a week in a courthouse at the end the last 5 years, and luckily I had a little military pension going on, so I had a little bit of and I had the trade shows I could do on the side, but I didn't know it was so lucrative on the money wise, because with your skills, when you put your skills together as a PI with experience, you can charge people $100 an hour.
Yes.
Plus fees, plus mileage. Okay. A new PI could not, like you said, come out saying, "Oh, I was a store clerk and I became a PI."
Yes.
You have to sell why somebody's going to pay you those rates.
But what was that? But going from that police to PI, did you have to learn some new skills? Did you have to?
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you one of the most important skills to learn, and you don't hear this too often. If you're taking an investigation that the police are looking into and the family's hired you on the side, you got to make sure you don't impede in that investigation or mess it up for the police. That is very important. That's why you always want to make contact if there's a police investigation, to talk to the police, to say, hey, the family's hired me. Yeah. Do you get how do you say it? What's the word? Flack. Yeah, a lot of times. Sometimes you get attitude, but sometimes you have a policeman reach out to you and say, thank you, I'm overloaded. I appreciate it. This is what I know. Meet me for coffee. Meet me at my office for the notes, what I can legally give you.
I bet you get that more because they know you ex-law enforcement than the typical, I just graduated from PI school last week. And they know you can relate and understand.
Well, normally what happens is the ones that know me, you know, I can tell sometimes they're either like roll their eyes or whatever. And you build the respect again. Like, look, I'm not here to be against you. I'm here to help you. Unless you have a case against the police officer, unfortunately. Fortunately, you're going to have good police officers. You're going to have ones that make mistakes, and you're going to have the ones that just want to make the mistakes that shouldn't be a police officer. So that's when you're up against something like that, you have to really look into what you're up against. Recently in a county in Atlanta, in a city, I had to go down there and meet the family with the case. And an 80-year-old woman had a car stolen a year ago, and they had done nothing. Zero. They'd done nothing. And when I got down there, they were treating the lady bad. They would keep her outside in the cold. They came out barking orders at me about why we were there. And I finally told them I was PI. I didn't like that. Finally, a supervisor came out. I just listened. I was with the attorney. And finally, the supervisor came out and he started talking a little better to us compared to the investigator came out about this case. And finally I said, you know, he goes, well, who are you? What's up with the investigations? I said, well, I just want to say one thing. Had I spoke to people like this last officer just spoke to us, my sheriff would have lit me up. And I showed him my retired badge and told him a little background, and it changed. Just like that. Had me upstairs talking to me about the case to assist them. In 1 year, they could not find the guy who had taken the car. In a matter of minutes, on one of my programs, I gave him the new address where the guy lives. I said, why couldn't you guys just do this? And basically, he said, well, you know what they said? They said, we're so under manpower and stacked with so many cases. We just haven't. Tell that to the family.
Well, you know, and that's important for people to understand too, especially people who are not in PI field watching this, because you don't realize they are overloaded. And that's why some people hire PIs, because we have the time to go out and actually look into their case.
And we get more jurisdiction than them sometimes.
That's another thing. But you're number 50 on the list, and your stolen car is not a priority.
Exactly.
You know, so sometimes you need us. Now, one thing I said I was going to ask you, you talked about in your academy, you all teach, you make them write a lot. I want people to understand that no matter how good you are at surveillance, investigations, all that, only one thing matters at the end. And what is that one thing you think, Mark?
It's your report.
The report. The report is the most important thing. If you can't articulate it into a report that the attorney can use, they're not going to hire you again.
And that's an interesting topic, because I had a conversation with a local PI. And she's on Facebook. She lives local. I just met her for the first time, Amanda Horton. She owns Amanda PI. And we met the other day and we were talking about that. And we talked about report writing. She goes, you write a lot of reports? And I said, no, I don't. Not unless they ask. Now, if I'm on a surveillance and I'm watching for every hour, that's different. But if somebody says, just go get a picture or get a picture of the wife coming out of the hotel with I mean, what am I going to write? I show up at the hotel at 8:00 and they walked out together.
Yeah, exactly.
It's time stamped on the picture that I'm giving to the attorney. And I tell people sometimes, you can write all you want, but you got to do the field work.
Yes. Well, like you said, you got to have both. You have to have good field work.
Yes.
But if I'm doing a background investigation, my client wants a nice background report. And I'll put together a report. It might not be big, you know, it might not be the 40-page report I used to do as an investigator. It might only be 5 pages. And I put the photos in there and the information from that. But they still want a decent report. I find my attorneys want a report that they can use inside their report. Sometimes it's just a picture, but sometimes they want to know when you did it. Because, you know, like you said earlier, discovery, you know, and they need a timeline of how things happen.
Right. And exactly what you're saying.
So what are you currently working on? Do you have any special projects? What do you focus on right now in your career or in your practice or anything like that?
Well, one thing I'm very weak at is cyber crimes. I've got a couple cyber cases that I have to like find people that can help me with it and contract out to. That's one of my weakest ones. I don't do no workman's comp stuff. I don't ever get called for that. So I got some now PIs I can transfer to. Security work has picked up for me. Stuff where somebody's afraid and they call me to sit in their driveway at night. Because in Georgia, when you get the PI license, you also get the executive protection license. It's not a separate license.
Okay.
But you need to know what you're doing. You can't. You got to know what you're doing.
Yeah. Like you said, you can't do that online. You need some hands-on, and you need proper training for executive protection.
Exactly. And that's why I discourage people. Look, you can't just take an online course for stuff like that. I focus on the other day in a conversation with the other PI with Amanda. I discussed trackers. Trackers are a very sensitive gray line thing. You got to be careful. And I didn't know some stuff that she educated me on about putting trackers on cars in Georgia.
I had a couple sitting here I was going to show, but yes, exactly. I use those too. But the law, like you said, you got to be very careful with the law with those.
Yeah, you got to be really careful in Georgia of putting it on public property or the person's property. I usually just if the husband wants it, or the wife, if you need me to buy it from Amazon, you pay me back. Here it is. You go set it all up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You know,
cross that line, and and I have put it in folks' cars if they both drive the car.
Right.
But if she exclusively driving, he exclusively drive it.
Yeah, and then you got to check like the laws, like in some states. It's a gray line in Georgia of who owns the car, or they both own marital property. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
So it comes down to marital property.
Now, do you do regular security too? Because you mentioned protection and you mentioned PI, but do you actually do security posts or have security guards working for you?
Yeah, we do 1099 contracts. If I get a contract for somewhere, like I have a 4-story steakhouse with 3 bars called Latin Flavors in the local community, and we run their security on Friday and Saturday. It's just good. The police are outmanned. They don't have the manpower.
Yes.
So, and we don't charge much. And we rotate shifts on that. We have black outfits, say security. And then it's, like in Georgia, I don't know what the laws are there. When you have the security license, armed or unarmed, you can guard somebody's business.
Yes. Right.
Or residence, but you cannot guard that person personally. You have to have the executive protection. So somebody just want a couple of uniformed guards to escort them somewhere. You can't do that. Yeah, you can put them in uniform and do. Yeah, you need to be more of an executive protection at that time.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm like you. I don't have any guards that's on long-term posts.
Right.
Where if they don't show up for a post, I got to go sit in. I like to do events or a party, or you got me on Friday and Saturday or something like that.
And I tell people, listen, this, I work, I do some part-time work for the Draco Corporation, which was an Israeli firm. Have you ever heard of them?
Yes, I have.
And I'm on their list. They call me sometimes and say, do you got any guards, or you want some posts? It's a lot of that's usually like security work with hospitals and things like that. And, luckily I was fortunate enough that they reached out to me, and a couple times a year I'll do some work. But you have the private contract sector of a $30 billion industry of security is good if you want to. If one thing is slow, you can jump on the other thing.
Yes, I mean, I really like what you're saying. One of the things I really believe in professionalizing what we do. I'm trying to get rid of that security guard mentality in people's mind. But what I like about what you're doing is, as a business, you see that you have to diversify. You have to do some court filings. You have to do some PI. You have to do some protective service, some security. What I want people to know, though, is that it's just not it's not a $10 an hour job we have to be stuck in. We can make it whatever we want to make it and make it a lucrative business. It sounds like you're doing well because you have so many things going on. I don't know if you can see that board behind me.
I do.
All those are different streams of things that I have going on.
If you can draw income from 5 or 6 areas, I mean, on contracting yourself, you'll do very well.
Multiple streams of income, right?
Yep.
But in your
one is down, the other's coming in.
You can have multiple streams in our industry. We don't have to do, McDonald's on the side and all that. We can have it within our industry, even if it's teaching, like you do the academy stuff.
Yes.
When you're not doing a job, you could be teaching somewhere. I have a couple of courses that are running all the time, along with the business that I'm doing.
Right.
So speaking of that, so what is a myth? What is one common myth about our industry? Since I was talking about the mentality, people have the security guard mentality.
Right.
What's a common myth that you about the professional field that you want to debunk, that you want people to, well, that's the word, debunk.
Don't believe in Hollywood. You won't solve the crime in 45 minutes.
Yes.
I say 45 minutes because you got to watch their commercials.
Yeah.
But I have had, believe it or not, I have had people tell me stuff like, oh, I watched that Discovery shows. What's it called? Court TV or criminal.
Yes.
Yeah, but you're not seeing everything. You're not seeing in the trenches of getting those people to come to court or getting the interviews.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't believe it. You can't believe the TV.
Well, my wife, I was Army CID and I was Air Force OSI. Mm-hmm. My wife loves NCIS.
I do too.
Well, I like it too, but I tell her, I wish I could solve a case in 45 minutes, And I said, I didn't have a shootout every case either. Every episode, there's a couple of shootouts. They have a computer person that can find anything in the world in 5 minutes, and all that. I'm like, look, but she see those and like, oh, I could do this job. I can be a PI with you. I can do that. I solved the case on TV. Mm-hmm. I'm like, there's a lot more going into it than that. I've been to 3 academies and years of training, and I want people to come into our field, but you have to understand it's not going to be as easy as what you see on television. So I like that. What you say, that your biggest thing is don't believe the hype.
Well, and exactly. And so, and here's the thing too, for new PIs, especially have zero experience, mm-hmm. don't think you're going to running out making 60,000 a year. Mm-hmm. And I mean, unless you magically got some great knack that the people start calling you, that I hope that happens. Mm-hmm. But I see a high failure rate. Because they get this license, they get all this equipment. Equipment is expensive. This. Just a low camera system will cost lower camera system will cost you $600.
Yeah.
And then you get your phones, you got all your like we're starting to wear body armor now for just process serving. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I wear camera. Do you wear body cam?
Yeah, we have body cams, we have our phones, and we switch from a tactical vest to a professional looking under the suit vest. Mm-hmm. So in my car, I got one that says it could say from security to private investigator to bail enforcement. I'd grab 3 different vests. Mm-hmm. So the thing is, you buy all this equipment, and if you ain't got nothing coming in, mm-hmm. you're gonna be hurting. And a lot of people I talk to, they got their license, and I got one guy that's trying to get licensed in like 5 states, and I'm like, you haven't had one case.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Exactly. And I like what you said, because I try to stress in my course, you don't need let me tell you, that course I told you I went through a couple months ago, mm-hmm. they showed us all these nice cameras that put in the wall and put in bushes.
But you got to know how to do that.
I'm sorry?
You got to know how to do that.
Well, not only that, but you find, when am I ever going to use that stuff? I've never used anything like that. Deal with the basic equipment. It's like 5 to 10 basic things you probably need.
Go sneak up in someone's yard, putting a camera in their bush.
Yes.
And you think it's easy on TV, but wait till a homeowner comes out.
Well, yeah, and you trespassing on their property or whatever.
Exactly.
But not only that, the guy who gave the demo said he has these cameras that like he said he had to leave it. He put a camera in a bush. It was a drug case or whatever. He had to beat feet out of there. His camera's gone.
Yeah.
So he has to buy another one. So it's you don't need all that stuff, folks, when you're just starting out. What you need? You know what you need, Mark? You need marketing. You need advertising. You need to get some cases first, and then figure out what equipment you need.
Or I got some that call me, like when the academy gets new PIs, they call me. If I get a case in another area, mm-hmm. I'll meet with them and take them, or I'll help them out. Mm-hmm. Come with me, or I get something small, I'll tell them to run by and get a picture of the car license plate for me. I give them $100 or something.
Yeah, I do stuff like that.
And the thing is, here's the thing too, PIs, when they get big cases or a couple $1,000s or whatever, they don't want to contract out or get help from anybody else, because they want that money. And the thing is, if you would contract out or get help from somebody else, you'll learn more.
Yeah.
Like I said, Amanda the other day, when we had this meeting from Amanda PI, she educated me. I've been law enforcement forever, reading laws and doing PI work. Mm-hmm. She set me straight on trackers, and I was like, wow. I mean, I was so happy and impressed with what she told me.
So I do want to say this, because I didn't want to make people think I'm down on PIs who don't have a law enforcement background.
Exactly.
I have a lot of PIs that have some great experience and great knowledge, and they schooled me on some things.
No, and you're touching on something too, because see, let's say you have a mom sitting at home and she works for an insurance company, mm-hmm. and she knows how to research insurance companies. Mm-hmm. Hey, you want to get your PI license to be one of those ones that do? Because see, like I got one with a truck that they said hit another semi truck in a depot, and I didn't know how to research all the insurance stuff. Well, guess what? You can specialize in that. You can specialize in medical fraud.
Yep.
There's things that somebody doesn't have the experience, but has the knowledge how to work it at home can work that. They just need that license so they can use these different programs like TLO, IDI core tracers, and things like that.
Yeah, and I want to go back to something you said. Two things you said. You said one of your projects you're working on is cyber. I want to make sure I emphasize. I'm a cyber.
I'm not good at cyber.
But but I want people to realize that as a PI, that's a natural progression. Now everything is going to be cyber. Everybody want a computer examined. I got somebody called me yesterday. They want a digital forensics done on a computer. Now I have a degree in that, but I have outsources. Like you said, I outsource it to some. But that's another lucrative field or that you can bring into your account. Even if you don't do it, you can outsource it to somebody else and get 20% or 30% of that.
An example is you got these Eastern Europeans that bust into these elderly people's or
do ransomware.
I'm trying to. They intercept the emails on passwords for like a closing of a real estate deal, and so the money gets spoofed to another account, and it's a lot of coming out of Eastern Europe. So then you get stuff like we got the FBI and the GBI. They don't really take these cases. 60,000, 50,000. Your local law enforcement tells nothing they can do. They're not going to. There's not much they can do. So then you get these people that don't know what to do, and nobody will help them. But you get somebody that knows how to read all those what do you call those numbers on your computer printouts of where the emails go and go.
The binary numbers.
Yes, you get somebody to read all that knows how to do that. They can turn over that stuff to these GBIs, FBIs, and things to say, this is what we got. Now help this lady.
Yeah, because you got to realize
sit there like that.
Well, you got to realize that's an expensive case. You got a $50,000 case. Police is not going to spend $100,000 worth of time working on your $50,000 case.
Exactly.
And speaking of money, so when I became a PI, I looked at other PIs and what they were charging, and I'm like, man, I don't want to price myself out of the out of competition. So $50 to $75 is what was going on around here.
Right.
I wanted $100.
Right.
I did 75, but let me tell you, a buddy of mine down in Georgia, he gets about $150 an hour, no law enforcement background, anything like that. And he said, Derek, you got to price yourself what you're worth. And like you, I'm an ex-federal agent of 18 years. I'm a police, reserve police, military. I put it up to 100. And now I can justify in my mind and to people. As a matter of fact, I probably can give a little bit more than that. I got buddies getting 250 in New York. But my thing is this, we have a specialized skill that we developed through law enforcement, military, and private investigator training, or whatever it may be. We should ask for what we were. And here's my example, Mark. If you go to a law firm and they say, I want $400 an hour, do you say, well, why you get $400 an hour?
I'm about to hit on that in a moment.
So why would a PI, why would they ask a PI, why do you get $100 an hour?
That exactly came up with an attorney with me.
Go ahead.
Attorney makes $300 an hour, and he asked me what constitutes that I should make $100 an hour. The attorney's only like 28 years old, and I'm 53. And I finally told him, I said, look, man, I got 13 years in the military, 14 years in law enforcement, and 4 years on my own now. It comes up to about 31 years experience. I'm worth at least $100 an hour.
Exactly.
So don't. And when you went to law school at age 18 and spent 6 years, that means right now you've only got 4 years out there. There's a big difference.
Yep.
So he understood.
And the thing is, you have a JD degree. I have 31 years experience doing this. And not only that, they're going to just pass it off to their client anyway.
Right.
Number one. And number two, oftentimes they need you to nail that case.
Right.
They're not going to go out and walk and go drive 5 hours and do whatever they need you to do on the island. They Look, need you.
I'm on a murder case against gang members right now.
Are they going? Is that $350 28-year going to go do it?
Or are you going to go interview gang members? I do. Exactly. I go right up to them and talk to them.
Exactly.
And I'm the one taking all the risks. I'm the one putting my family at risk. I'm the one sleeping with a gun by my bed at night, carrying guns in my car, because I'm out there doing what we talked earlier, 7 deadly sin cases. So so you tell an attorney, when you take something like a rape or homicide, or you better be ready.
And you want to shortchange me.
And I got the experience.
Exactly. And the knowledge, like I said, so they have a specialized skill of law. You have a specialized skill of investigations.
Right.
Yeah. So how do you continue to learn in order to stay on top of the things that you do in your role?
You learn from other PIs with experience.
Do you do? I heard you say you're going to take a couple of courses. Do you do a combination of learning from others, also taking online or in-person training? What's kind of your formula?
I do. I work with sometimes Leon Adams, who owns a shooting school down towards Covington. So I'll go do a refresher on tactical training in case there's. I would hope nothing like that would ever transpire, but you never know. So I keep up on different shooting skills. Just because I was in the military and law enforcement, I still, at my age, still need to learn different movements and tactical skills. Yep. As far as the laws in Georgia, things change. One of the gray line changing things always down here is with bail enforcement or the trackers. So you need to know the laws on that stuff too. You need to know so you don't violate their Fourth Amendment rights. Somebody asked me yesterday, actually the cable guy that came to change my cable, he says, what do you do if a private citizen like me and you come up to interview me on the case and I just tell you go away? I said, I go away.
That's it.
What can I do?
We have no custodial ability. We can't detain you. Yes.
But I always give you a card, and I promise you 99.9% of the time you call me back later on.
Well, you know what that means, Mark? That means that we have to have even more skill than law enforcement, because law enforcement could demand you sit there and talk.
Right.
We have to finesse, use rapport and all that to get you to be comfortable with us to talk.
I mean, you know this as an investigator, you can lie in an investigation. We can lie in an investigation. And I'll just look at people and they're like, I don't want to talk to you. I'm like, okay, see you later. You're like, you don't want to talk to me? No, I don't need to talk to you. I already know what I need to know. I just came to see you in person. What do you know? Well, you don't want to talk to me. Do you want to talk to me? You don't want to talk to me. Yes. Well, I just report back to the attorney. The attorney reports back to the judge. What do you mean the judge? I mean, well, the judge signed a paper for me to come and give this to you. You don't want it. I mean, I did give it to you, but you don't want it. I've done my job.
But what I like about that takes critical thinking skills and experience, what you just did.
Yeah.
Or you can just be a good BSer. But a new guy and a new lady has to kind of learn that, to finesse that person and work with that person and do that.
Yeah. And I found, what I found in process serving, when somebody says to me, oh, he's tough, he's mean, or my ex-husband's mean, or they're going to fight you. They usually turn out to be teddy bears. It's the ones I don't expect that turn out to be wildcats, like a cat in the water.
Some little 135-pound guy
who's nuts on you.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you mentioned on firearms. I know you're a firearms instructor. Do you make that part of your business? Do you do CCW and other? Is that one of your streams of income?
I don't do the CCW. What I do is strictly somebody that wants some refresher training, basic firearms, revolvers, and autos. And I am an NRA instructor, but I also have my own lot of experience.
Okay.
So if somebody wants the NRA course, I follow their guidelines with the 8 hours of the video and taking them to a range. I have a membership at an indoor range. So then we get there and they pay their range fees. And my basic courses are basically the familiarization. And I do have a lot of people call me saying, what's the best gun for me and my wife? And I explain to them, I'll meet them at a gun store and tell them to hand fit it. These gun stores, I know about 4 different ones, what is best for you? What's the best caliber? What fits your hand? And then let's go familiarize you with the weapon, from the shooting of it to the breakdown, the cleaning of it, and the safety of putting it away.
Right. Well, see, that's another stream when you have some downtime. Give me $150 and meet me at the range.
Exactly. You get a couple, and that's you can make $300 in a day.
Yeah, there you go. I'm starting something here in Maryland now. I'm calling the Maryland Shooters Club. Yeah. But I want people to get that special agent experience. I mean, they can go through the NRA course, but I'm gonna teach them tactical reloads, and I'm gonna teach them magazine exchanges, and just some of the skills we learn as agents. Cause I was a FLETC instructor, Federal Law Enforcement Training Center instructor, and all that. Just give them a fun experience also. I'm just trying to figure out how to do it, because we're messing with guns and I don't want people to shoot themselves.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out what kind of course I want to put together to give them that experience. I even want to have like a weekend course. It costs a little bit more money, but they get that experience of defensive tactics and the shooting. Kind of go through a mini special agent course over the weekend.
Well, like the one that Leon Adams, which we were deputies together, he offers basic, intermediate, and advanced. So one of the first thing he does, and first thing I do when I teach people up here locally, and what Leon does when I go to Leon for mainly, I need some room clearing experience. I need to refresh myself on some coming out of the car shooting. Look, let me tell you, it's not TV like we talked about with the PIs. We're not doing that, but that's part of our okay. I meet a lot of PIs that want to be unarmed, and I meet a lot of them that are armed. The PIs I work with personally, if we're going on a case, I want them armed, especially if I'm going in the woods to look at stuff, or I'm on a murder case and we're in some bad neighborhoods, and there are bad neighborhoods. I hate to say it. I really want you armed, concealed, tucked away just in case. And that's for our protection. But you have to also, you have to look at somebody when they first pick up a weapon if you're going to teach them to know where they're at. And Leon will get you on the range, just make you fire a couple shots and look how you hold the gun to know where he needs to start. Is this intermediate or advanced, or is this a brand new person that's fired a new gun? And if you got somebody who's never fired a gun, you don't want the 40 caliber in their hand or a 45. You want, maybe I keep a Glock 44 on hand so somebody can shoot a 22, and we work up to the 9mm they bought.
Exactly. Now, I have a follow-on question to what you just said, though. In law enforcement, you and I, we work for our department or whatever. We know everybody had the same training.
Right.
So if you go out with another PI and he has a weapon, he carries a gun, are you ever concerned about, what's this guy's, what you can do? Do you worry about what this guy can do, or you just cool that, hey, I got an extra gun as backup?
I'm going to be honest, whether they watch this interview and don't like what I'm about to say, so be it. But usually when I get a call from one, the first thing I do is call Chief Seegers down at the academy. Say, I got a call from one of your guys, needs a little help. Tell me about him.
Because you want to know who's carrying a gun behind him.
He would tell me, well, he's ex-law enforcement, he's this, and I'm like more comfortable. Or if he says he's totally brand new, I know what I got.
Exactly. And know how to deal with it.
I will always vet that person about to get in my car.
I mean, to me, that's smart. If a guy's behind me with a weapon, I don't want to end up shooting me in the back of the head when he pull it out and he's nervous. I need to know his skill level. And I never thought about that until you said it,
Yes, you gotta know where they're at.
So my next question to you is, what's one thing you wish you had known when you began your career? And let's say your PI career, well, your law enforcement and PI career. What's one thing you wish you had learned? I've heard some very interesting things from folks. So what's yours?
Of what I learned from being law enforcement.
One thing you wish you had known when you began this career, your law enforcement or PI journey. What is something that you wish you had known?
I wish you're scared to make the leap, and everybody loves money. I wish I'd known it was so lucrative, and it can be, but you better perform good services. I wish I had taken more college on criminal justice, because even though I was in law enforcement, I didn't know everything. You never know everything. And to be honest with you, here I am at 53, about to be 54, and I'm now one credit shy of finishing my 2-year criminal justice degree. And it does help you to have some. If you have no law enforcement or military experience, get that degree, because it helps you. And now I do get calls from moms that are like, I got a criminal justice degree. I've always wanted to be in forensics or a PI. So at least they've done something.
Yep, so I agree with that.
Even though I was law enforcement, I didn't know everything. I wish I had got the degree sooner.
I was looking for a book, because right now, you know what I'm doing now? I'm 57, and I have a federal agent background, so I know a little bit about the law like you from your law enforcement background. But right now, I'm enrolled in a paralegal course. And not because I want to be a paralegal, but because I'm studying the law more. And because I focus on law firms, when they're talking and all that, I want to know what les pendus is, and I want to know their terminology and all that. So I'm studying paralegal in order to understand the language and be able. And I let I let them know, hey, I have a paralegal certificate.
Right. I thought about doing the same thing for myself.
Yep.
I'm actually my goal right now is I'm getting the tracking on the ground schooling done for animals and humans through the course, because where I'm at, there's not many people that know that. And if they're hunting a human in the woods on a manhunt, and I know from law enforcement, a dog is only good for an hour or two. And if a dog eats, it can't go out for like 2 hours. So that's a skill that's limited. And I got into that meeting a girl called Kit Walken out of Italy, and she is a big trainer in Europe for that stuff. So I said, what I got another 10 years to probably work, maybe, if my body allows it. I might as well get some cool skills going.
And that's something that you can offer. And by the way, folks, I work for IRS full time. It's tax deductible, so you can go get those skills.
Write off. People don't realize you write your firearms off on some things. You can write off your car for a guy asked me the other day, and you're IRS. You can tell me if I'm wrong. A friend of mine asked me, he says, "Do you keep a mileage log?" I said, "For what?" I mean, I'm in my car. My car, everything I do is business all day long. And if I put 35,000 miles on this car, I mean, probably 1,000 of it is just for maybe me and my wife going somewhere. The rest has all been everything I'm doing because I'm doing so much.
Yep. And there's only so much you can write off anyway, so you can write off the max.
I have dogs. Sorry, they heard me talking.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. So my next question, what advice would you give to somebody else wanting to come into your profession?
One thing that my dog's sorry.
That's okay. This is real life.
Yeah. One thing is maybe do a ride along. Maybe get with a PI and say, "Hey, what's going on?"
You're one of 3 people that I've interviewed that said that. And let me say this, Mark. They said that you really you need to talk to PIs, or if you want to law enforcement, talk to law enforcement people and really get to know what you're getting into. Learn what you're actually getting into. Especially
with the armed security gigs. If you like, my thing is we work in these bars on the steakhouse. If you've got zero experience of verbal judo, and you know what I mean by that, and what would be the other one? Interpersonal communication skills or ethics skills, and you're working a bar with drunks. Remember, just because you got a gun and a uniform don't mean you're going to stop the situation. Especially in Georgia, we're there for just, to make sure somebody doesn't get hurt. And you got to call the local police. But if you've never had that experience, you're going to be scared to death when something breaks out and you're standing in that uniform with all them tools.
And let me tell you, security with
you try to break up 2 big men.
Well, I'm from Chicago. I used to do security in Chicago. And with my gun and my stick, people told me, they told me they'll take that stick and shove it up my, or I take that gun from you and beat it. And what are you going to shoot them?
You know what I tell them when they argue with me like that in bars? I'll say, "I know you can. I know you will. It's just me. I'm not Superman. I have these tools, but I'm here to help everybody." And usually they're just like, "Oh, wow."
But you know what you just did? You used your verbal judo.
Exactly.
So I wanted to tell you, because what you said is very important, more so than the tools you carry and the martial arts you might know. Interpersonal skills, you said, and your verbal judo, being able to talk to people, calm them down. You could have been, if you were younger, you probably say, "Oh yeah, well, let's go for it." As we get older and we can't be fighting everybody, we say, "Okay, yeah, you probably could," but then I have to call the police and they're going to come and rescue you. You got to go to court. You really want to do that?
Look, off-duty cops are the worst ones to make fun of you when they see you, and they'll walk by you at these restaurants or bars where you work and say, "Oh, you doing the rent-a-cop thing?" And I'll say, "I am. I know I'm a loser. I just can't do anything better." I'll say something like that, joking with them, but I'll say, "But you know what's funny? I'm making exactly or more than what you're making, but I have to call you for the whole situation to handle the report."
There you go.
They just look at me like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "Yeah." So if you're going to make fun of me, I'm going to fire back.
And they might get the hard part. They got to wrestle with the guy.
You got to do it. I just got to call you. Say I got a little problem over
here. Yep. So what is the most proud? What are you most proud of in your career? It doesn't have to just be PI, but your entire career. What are you most proud
of? I did it because I didn't think I could do it.
Which one? You mean law enforcement
in PI and everything? Because I had people at work when I was leaving doubting me that I could make it. I knew I had the knife store and I was doing gun shows. That's all I could do, and I was able to diversify in all these different directions and handle the law. Like people come to me and they're like, "How do you do all that so much? And it looks like you're all over the map all the time." I Facebook where I'm at a lot of times as a PI, and people are like, "Why do you tell people your locations? What if something happens to me?"
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so that's one thing. But they see what I'm doing, and I explain to them, it's not as bad as you think. Sometimes I only work like from 10 in the morning to like 2 in the afternoon. But the stuff I do in 4 hours is amazing. How many counties I can cover, and that's what I tell people is is accomplishment of diversifying. Like Monday, I'm on a PI case. Tuesday, I'm on a PI case. Wednesday, I process served. Yesterday, I moved furniture from my old office to my new office. Today, I'm talking to you, and then I'm going to go to a doctor's appointment. I plan on downtime today. Tomorrow, I'm hitting a gun show, and right where the gun show is, I'm going to go serve some papers. It's accomplishing the diversifying and making it.
Well, you look back and say, man, I should have done this earlier.
I have, but I needed to get to that point to have the retirement points at the county.
Right. And that's important. I do have my retirement that helps me be able to do this, because there's going to be some downtime and it takes some development time,
And that's something to go back on too. When you say, can people just get their PI license? And if one of the things I ask them is, do you have benefits? Because everybody needs benefits. Yep. So if you got a wife that wants to do something outside and the husband has benefits, perfect gig. Exactly. You get a guy that comes to you, he's got 3 little kids and he's sick and tired of his job. And you're like, do you have benefits? He goes, well, I'll lose my benefits if I quit. I'm like, you need to think about that. Now you can dabble in this, but you really need benefits. And I tell them, you got to have your benefits for your family. You got to have health benefits.
And you're not going to come out the door with your PI license and be successful. Like you say, you're not going to make 60K or whatever. It's going to take, I always think, and one of the Shark Tank guys said that you need to start a business while you have a job.
Exactly.
Until it can replace that job. He said, you're crazy if you don't. Even him, you're crazy if you don't have some. I would say I'm a manager at the Internal Revenue Service, right? And I have these businesses that I run, but I'm able to be able to do that because, like you said, my benefits, I can pay my bills and all that. I have a pension from the military that allows me to build this.
Right.
I want to build it.
And I get people that talk to me all the time. I got an 05 BMW out there I drive. It's in good shape. I got a newer Journey I drive. I got a nice little house in the woods. And, we got kayaks. We got cool stuff. But I'm 54 years old next month. Do you know how long it took me to get to that point?
Exactly.
I've worked hard.
Exactly.
And now you do have people that get their PI license. And maybe their specialty is insurance or something like you're doing the IRS stuff. And now, hey, maybe they'll hook on with Geico or State Farm, become an investigator for those companies, get the benefits, get a cool thing. I mean, there's ways to do it.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. Here in DC, the big thing is background investigations.
Yes.
Get on with these people who have government contracts. I got a couple of my students like that. They get the PI and they on with these contracts and they got a salary coming in.
I got a company here that I do all their backgrounds for them. I charge them a small price. It ain't much, like $30 a person. They'll send me 10 at a time. But what I specialize in is when I do that background check and bring it up. And Miranda, what I've taught her that works for me is when we do these backgrounds, I said, just don't shoot them the background. Read it and give them notes about the background. Like this guy's only 40 years old, but he's had 28 addresses. Okay, this guy has got 3 liens and 4 judgments, and he's got financial problems. Or this guy's been in and out of jail a whole bunch of times.
Mark, that is great. I hope people are listening to that because here's the thing. You take that report and you give your customer added value.
You give them the notes, and that's what that's for. When you attach it to that email, you say the name and the subject, and you attach all the notes of what you've read in it, and you shoot them the email.
And that brings up something else you said. The biggest thing about our career is that we're PIs, but we're also business people.
Right.
Like you said, you say you show where you are, right? Yeah. That shows clients, how busy you are, how involved you are, and say, this is probably the guy I need to hire because he's out there. I see him. Why do you think I'm doing interviews and I'm on Facebook and I'm posting? So if Mark has something going on in Maryland, you call me up and say, hey, Derek, I see your face all the time. It's like I know you. I got something going in Maryland. Maybe you can help me with it.
Yeah, because if a case starts in your state, you can go outside the state. See, like in Georgia, if it starts in Georgia and it goes all the way to DC, I can go to DC and I can call you up and say, look, I need backup, man. How much or whatever, meet me. I'll help you out. Can you help me?
Because you see me.
Yes.
So we're in advertising and marketing as well as we are in doing PI work. That's 50% of our business too.
And I'll tell you something that a lot of people don't know too. Like where I'm at for process serving, I get specially appointed case by case. Now, some counties have lists. I don't really want all that. So I get appointed case by case because the sheriff's department couldn't handle it or couldn't find somebody. But you start meeting some of these lawyers outside your state that do federal suits. You don't have to be appointed or anything. They can just send it to you. So I've got now attorneys in California. I get a lot out of Oklahoma. I get some out of Alabama, South Carolina. They just send me stuff in the mail now. It's packets. And they're like, can you serve this? And you can make some money serving federal lawsuits.
Mm-hmm. Now, so I have a process serving course. Mm-hmm. And in that I tell people you can build a business just doing process serve.
Absolutely.
And you're saying that you probably have so much process serve, you probably got to turn some down so you can do your other cases.
Sometimes, not too many.
But it's pretty lucrative for you.
It pops in. It could pop in easily $150 a day's worth of work.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know, it is, and unfortunately, process serving has become a good part of my job.
Yeah, especially right now with this. And by the way, even with the pandemic, people still have to be served. You know, so it doesn't.
They're still going to go. Whether you're a Zoom hearing or a text message hearing, you got to go.
Yep, and you got to be served.
Yes,
you got to know. So we talked about your proudest thing in your career. So let's talk about what's your biggest failure and what did you learn from it?
I had opportunities paid by the military to do my education fees, and I didn't take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You know what? I'm gonna tell you. I got 7 degrees. I have 9 degrees. 7 of them I got in the military for free. You know, my crim justice and all that, because as long as the military was paying for it, I kept going back. And like you, I got called up. When I got called up, I got the new GI Bill. Mm-hmm. So I went back and got 2 more master's degrees.
Addicted because of the desert. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I'm with you. So your biggest thing is that you wish you had gotten more education.
And I'll tell you what people need to, depending on your demographics, mm-hmm. which probably is going to be heavy Spanish throughout the whole United States. Mm-hmm. Learn a foreign language.
Good. That's a good.
I can speak German, but you know how many Germans I run into?
I speak Turkish.
So how many are you going to run into?
Not many. I go to the mall and I talk to one Turkish guy at the mall.
Learn a foreign language
that you can use.
I just got hired on to go to Panama. I'm supposed to go this month. We're waiting on the passport. And the same client that owns some construction companies wants me to go. He owns 8 companies. Mm-hmm. And this is another good thing I'll hit on. I know we're talking a lot. I'm enjoying this. He's also wanting to take me to Spain in August. Okay. And this conversation came out. He owns the building where I had my shop. Mm-hmm. And the conversation came out where I had to go south to Columbus, Georgia, a couple weeks ago for 3-hour drive. Mm-hmm. And he said, "What are you doing down there?" I said, "The client hired me to go look at the workers." And he said, "What do you do?" I said, "I just pull up and look at the workers." I put on an AT&T hat. I mean, I had a little hat. I walked through the construction site. They didn't bother me. I'd bend down, act like I was picking up a wire, and took pictures. And he said, "For what?" He goes, "All my guys are on GPS trackers. I can tell you when they clock out for lunch and when they clock out for dinner." Mm-hmm. I said, "Well, let me ask you a question. When they clock out for lunch and clock back in, how do you know they went back to work?"
Exactly.
He said, "Well, I didn't think about that." He says, "Well, they get 45 minutes to eat." I said, "Well, how do you know they don't sit there for 2 hours and talk?"
Yes.
And says, "That's what he sent me down for." Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's a good, let me tell you something. It is now, people are calling me now for stuff like that. Like, I need you to go check out my workers, especially out in the field workers, construction, lawn maintenance. Yep.
So Mark, let me tell you a quick story. And this is bad, but I was a young security guard in Vegas and I was on a post where we used to have an old clock and a key. And every step I had to go and I had to turn this key to show that I was hitting my posts.
That's right.
So Derek got smart. Derek timed it. After a little while doing that time and said it takes 2 minutes to go to this. I had where it takes time. So I would sit in my booth and I would say, okay, it takes 2 minutes. I'll do the clock. Then I do another clock. You know, I did. So my point was, like you said, I was just sitting there, I tied a time and I'm just doing my route and I was never doing my route. Right. So somebody like you would go say, this guy's been sitting in his container, his booth for 8 hours. And I'm showing in the computer that he's been hitting all his posts. Now I know it's bad, folks. Don't do it. But I was a young guard.
It happens a lot. You know, I was a jailer in a jail at night, and jailers are notorious for not doing the rounds and just logging it in. They get caught eventually, but they're notorious for not doing a round.
Midnight shift, ain't nothing going on. I'm not gonna make the round.
I'm not going down there to check the beds, but they log it in
until you find somebody's been hanging in the cell for 8 hours, and they wonder why you didn't find them.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like that.
So it's important, and you know, construction and stuff are notorious for that stuff.
Yep. So Mark, I want to look at your time. You know, we've been talking for quite some time, and I've enjoyed it because I love the conversations with the folks that I meet. But I'm gonna start wrapping up. So if you could step into my shoes right now, what is one thing you would have asked yourself that I might not have asked you, that I might have forgot to ask?
How far do you go in cases? How what's your distance?
And what's your answer?
I usually take any case I can in the state for any distance, because I'll time it somehow if I have to get there. But of course, I'll have to sell myself on my experience and why you're going to pay me to drive 6 hours the extra money than getting a local guy.
Because when you drive that 6 hours, are you getting your hourly wage for those 6 hours as well? Or
I
do
do
you
my
start once
I
you
do
get
my
there?
PI. I do my rates a little different. I'm going to tell you something. What I found out, and it's been great for me.
Mm-hmm.
I give people a set fee, mileage, materials, everything.
Mm-hmm.
I found it easier because a lot of PIs are going to charge 75 to 125 an hour plus mileage plus all the materials. I found it easier if somebody wants me to travel 3 or 4 hours and work on a custody dispute, which I get a lot of custody disputes on kids. I just found it easier to say, I'll do the whole case for $2,500, $2,000 to the end. To the end. Yeah. Now, unless you need to send me on an airplane or 12 hours away or to another state, then we'll talk about the extra money. Mm-hmm. But pretty much, I'll take it to the end.
Yeah, because my buddy down in Georgia, where you are, he's actually had to fly out to New Mexico and Mexico.
Yeah, that's different.
Started there, but I find myself doing it anyway. And I like that you said that because I have an hourly rate. But if a guy say, "Look, I need you to go do this, and this," I say, "Okay, I'm gonna charge you $400 for that."
Yeah.
You know, now sometimes it might run me a little bit more because I'll find something like, man, I just can't find this guy. And it take me a little bit more time, but I've already said, okay, if I find this guy, it's going to take me 2 hours to find him, an hour to do that. I'm just going to charge the guy for 3 or 4 hours. Yeah. And I find I have to do that. Plus, it's easier to sell it like a package sometimes than to say, when somebody hear $100 an hour, they'd be like, oh, God, $100 an hour.
I found it easier just to sell a package. Yeah. And especially with process serving, and I'm in and out of all over so much of the counties around me. If some, in and out like a little star pattern of Atlanta around me, I tell these, when attorneys call me, most process servers are going to charge you $75 per attempt. Mm-hmm. I just tell them, give me the paperwork, give me $100, I'll hit it 5 or 6 times. And they're like, what? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, I'm in and out so much. Now, if it's a rush and you need it done instantly, yeah, we're going to go do it. But don't expect me to run an hour down every single day. Mm-hmm. Unless we have, because most of the stuff I serve, you've got, it's a pending case. Mm-hmm. So you get it served, you can't do nothing. Mm-hmm. And same thing with a PI case. When you give a set rate, you need to tell them, look, this is why I need to talk to the attorney. Is there a time frame? Because I've had people sit there and say, oh, no, we got plenty of time. And then I'll call the attorney up and they'll say, oh, I need that done by February 15th. We got a hearing. And I'm like, nobody told me. So then you're running your butt off for the next 3 or 4 days. Well,
Mark, I like that you have hit on some. I learned a couple of things talking to you today, number one, and some tips that I might put into place, like that legal services thing. And even that packaging thing. I think I'm going to come up with some packages. But I want to thank you because I think out of this, some people got some good tidbits, especially if they're new to the industry. And I love bringing on other professionals and finding out how you all do things in your area and some different things that you try, because I think it helped all of us in the community. So I want to thank you for that time. I really enjoyed this. Enjoy talking to you. I meet so many great guys by doing this, because I tell people this is also a network. Now I have Mark. I can call down in Georgia and say, hey, I got something. Can you help me out with that or whatever it may be? Matter of fact, I got a couple of questions for you after this interview. But last thing is where can other people connect with you if they want to ask you other questions or follow on with you or even use your services? I'm going to put it inside down below the video, but also how can people reach you?
Well, I'm not afraid to give my phone number out. I've had the same phone number for 22 years. Okay. So my phone number is 770-712-2289.
Okay.
My email is Marc with a C, M-A-R-C, and then a dot, and then LACRIMOSA 2244
Great. And do you have a name of your company?
I'm just private on the process service, on the PI work. Unless you own your own agency in Georgia, you cannot.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. I cannot. But I have a website called patriotservicesus.com.
Okay, great.
That gives all contact to me, but it tells you that I'm registered as a PI under Lloyd Investigations, which he lets us run. When you have a lot of experience like us, he lets you run freelance.
So he kind of hang your license. You kind of like an independent contractor to him.
Yeah, but on the process serving and everything, that's for that website I have. And then I'm on Facebook as Marc R. Lacrimosa. You saw my look with my camo and my hat and stuff. Yes. I mean, that's just, people can contact me. I get a lot off Facebook. I'm not afraid to tell people, on social media. I'm a PI. Because I'll tell you one thing, I've made a lot of money off people contacting me that way.
Well, if you go to my Facebook page, I got a big old picture up there saying PI, cybersecurity. I mean, that's
I got to find out eventually.
And I use social. Well, that's a good point. Let me talk about that for a second. I run into a lot of guys who want to be secret squirrels, super secret. Oh, don't tell me I'm a PI and all that.
And then they're broke.
We're in the marketing business. If people don't know what we do, how are they going to hire us?
Yeah.
You know? So I
can't just get in a suit and dark glasses and stand there.
Yep. I use my social media to generate business for my business.
Right.
You know, now I put some fun stuff on there too, but I'm going to talk to you about my business.
Right.
You know, I'm not just there to spend a lot of time just doing nothing.
Right.
So I'm going to do that. So again,
and you know what? Here's another important fact we didn't hit on when you said something. What would you tell a PI? Never take a case that you're going to conflict on.
What do you mean by that?
Like, you know, I was a deputy here for a long time. What if I already had taken a case against the wife, and a year goes by, then the wife says, hey, you know, running you followed me. I remember, I need you to follow the husband. No, man. Ain't happening.
Yeah.
Now, there's nothing wrong with you giving it to another PI, but don't give them the whole case information, everything. Just let it go.
I'm glad you said that, because I teach that in my course. I do not, I didn't understand what you were saying at first, but I do not do a case with the husband and with the wife, even if it's down the line. You know, we don't cross that line. So we have to have our ethics.
Exactly.
That we utilize.
Ethics, yes, you're right.
All right, man. So I really appreciate it. Thanks again. This is great. I'm going to edit it and put it up and things like that, and we'll be going and showing it in just a little while. Well, that's it for this video, folks. If you want to learn more about private investigation or become a private investigator, check out my Private Investigator career course at privateinvestigationsacademy.com. It is jam-packed with 35 lessons on everything you need to possibly know to be a private investigator. And by the way, when you get my course, you also get a free vacation to one of 51 available locations, and I have a 3-payment plan available. So again, check out my PI career course at privateinvestigationsacademy.com. I'll see you on the next video.